Welcome back. You're watching Credlin. Well, it was a famous economist who once said, faced with a choice between changing one's mind and proving that there's no need to do so, almost everybody gets busy on the proof. That quip opened up Adam Creighton's excellent comment piece yesterday, arguing that we've shut up shop, closed down the country for a virus that was unlikely to kill us. Let's bring in my economics panel to discuss this and more. Tonight, the Herald Sun's Terry McCran, and of course in Sydney, Adam Creighton. Adam Creighton, I've just referenced your piece yesterday. Extraordinary column, very, very well done. And you've pulled apart the fact that there is no link between lockdowns and a reduction in deaths, let alone a demonstration of causality. So why is Victoria locked down and will still stay locked down for weeks and weeks and weeks? Why haven't we adjusted our thinking in September from where we were back in February, where we didn't know much about the virus?
Well, look, it's a very good question. And just firstly on the causality, yes. Look, if you look across countries, it certainly might feel like lockdowns should work, but there's really no statistical evidence that they do. The volume of cases rises and falls basically regardless of what different countries do. And just on the fact that, yes, it's now September and we know so much more about the virus, but we haven't seemingly changed our policies, I think you've got to be a little bit sceptical or cynical about the incentives of the bureaucracy and about government more generally. I mean, they're just people like everyone else, and they are self-interested. And, frankly, when you're analysing why there hasn't been a change of mind, it's at least partly because it's very embarrassing for leaders, I think, to say that they might have been wrong or that they might have overreacted. And also, they are to some extent benefiting from this whole saga. They're in the media every day. Their incomes haven't gone down. All of the costs of lockdown are basically falling on other people who have no say in the decision, basically. So I think that's why there hasn't been any change. But I do think, though, that the facts will eventually become clear and they will have to change their policy.
But Terry, it's all care and no responsibility for the premiers. Of course, they're winning because they're sounding tough. And, if they keep the state locked up, bugger the economics, they'll keep those case numbers down, and they see that as their immediate reward. And it's all underpinned by the Commonwealth, who's keeping, homes afloat, sending money in with JobKeeper and JobSeeker. And we know the Commonwealth's spending about $318 billion when I last looked, and the states are collectively around $50 billion. So they've got no economic skin in the game, have they?
Exactly, Peter. I think the question starts to be posed from the end of the month when JobKeeper in particular, but also JobSeekers, start to be wound back. And that's when the reality comes much more into focus between the deaths, so to speak, on the one side and the infections on one side, and that brutal reality of the jobless numbers and what people actually hurting in a very real way in terms of what happens in the economy. At the moment, as you say, it's all risk, it's all reward and no risk for the states to persist with the lockdown, with the border closures in the good states. But when people start to actually feel that pain much more brutally, it's not just, at the moment it's business. Individuals have been insulated to some extent. So I think that choice becomes far more clear-cut.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right. It's at a business level right now. It's not yet at a household level, and I think that's when we'll see an absolute turn on this. Let me go to the RBA, if I can, Adam. Budget day. We're expecting there may be a rate cut. Same day as the budget, as I said, the RBA Bank will meet. This is the 6th of October. There was this chatter around today about going into negative interest rates. Is that likely? Do you think we will see any movement on the current rate? And what's happening overseas in this regard?
Well, look, certainly there is some chance, I think, probably more than 50% that the Reserve Bank will cut the rate one last time. But look, the cut's only going to be from 0.25 to 0.1 or something like that. So it's really not going to make a huge difference at the end of the day. It'll basically just be formalising that we are at zero rates. Just interestingly, this afternoon, Paul Keating has come out and absolutely slammed the Reserve Bank for not printing money and funding the government deficit, which is just extraordinary. He's used very, very strong language, so that will be all over the papers tomorrow. But look, I think the Reserve Bank has been fairly sensible in not pursuing extreme policies such as negative interest rates so far. I mean, we've seen in Denmark, in Switzerland, in places where they supposedly have negative interest rates, that there's no sudden prosperity or anything like that. And certainly banks don't start paying their depositors money to hold money with them. It doesn't actually flow through like that. you do end up with weird situations where, you know, rather than paying interest on your mortgage, the size of the mortgage starts to shrink over time very, very gradually. But look, we might see it here eventually, but I doubt it.
I've got to go to that point there on Paul Keating, Terry. I mean, Labor love the money tree, don't they?
Well, it's glad to see that he's come out of his basement, just like Joe Biden finally came out of his basement. We all miss Paul Keating and his acerbic wit, so to speak. I'm going to disagree with Adam. I don't think the Reserve Bank will cut in 2 weeks' time. I think also, as Adam has indicated, it's pretty pointless for them to do so anyway. You're going to have a cut from 25 points to 10 points if it does occur, but I don't think it will. Mm-hmm. What we need is for governments to order us into this recession. Governments have to, in effect, order us out of recession, as we've been saying, by getting rid of the lockdowns, by getting rid of the border closures. The solution doesn't lie in Martin Place in Sydney. It lies out there where the governments make decisions.
Yeah, the people who do the work pay the taxes to pay the salary of everybody who's making these decisions, and in the case of Victoria, pretty appalling decisions. Terry McCrann, Adam Creighton, thank you as always.
Thanks, Peter.